Hey everyone, and welcome to our deep dive into, well, teenagers.
Yeah.
The teenage years.
This teenage years.
We're going to explore all the science behind those crazy years.
It's a fascinating time.
Yeah, from those hormonal shifts to how the brain develops, it's all connected.
Absolutely.
It's like the cheat sheet to understanding what makes teenagers tick, right?
Yeah, it's a very complex period.
We've got a whole stack of research notes and lectures here.
That's right.
All about puberty, brain development, and just, some of the challenges that adolescents face.
Yeah. It's a time of a lot of growth.
So get ready, everyone, because it's going to be a fascinating ride.
It is.
One of the things that I think is often misunderstood is that adolescence isn't just about hitting puberty and
Right.
sprouting up a few inches, right?
Yeah, it's not just about the physical changes.
Yeah, it's not just the physical changes. It's a much longer journey toward full maturity.
Exactly.
Both physically and mentally.
It's a process.
Yeah, and the lecture slides mentioned that puberty usually lasts, 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, 3 to 5 years on average.
But reaching full maturity, oh my goodness.
That takes much longer.
Takes a whole lot longer.
It really does.
It's like, renovating a house. You might finish the main construction in a few years, but decorating and getting everything just right can take a lifetime.
That's a great analogy because just like a renovation project, puberty involves this complex cascade of hormones acting as messengers, signaling different parts of the body to change and grow.
Okay, so let's break this down a little bit, this hormonal cascade, right?
Yes, let's do it.
It all starts with the hypothalamus, right?
Okay,
that tiny part of the brain that seems to control everything.
The hypothalamus is like the master conductor of the endocrine system.
It is like the project manager kicking things off by sending signals to the pituitary gland.
Right.
Which is like the general contractor.
Exactly.
And then the pituitary gland then releases hormones that tell other glands, like the adrenal glands and the gonads,
Right.
which are the ovaries or tests, to start producing their own hormones.
It's a chain reaction.
So it's like this chain reaction with each gland getting instructions from the one before it.
Precisely. And this chain reaction ultimately leads to a surge in sex hormones, primarily estradiol in females and testosterone in males. And these hormones are the real drivers of those physical changes we see during puberty, but they also have a huge impact on brain function and behavior.
Yeah, it's incredible how these tiny chemical messengers can orchestrate such dramatic changes throughout the body.
It is remarkable.
And speaking of changes, the notes mention some interesting things about how puberty affects sleep.
Oh yes, puberty definitely throws a wrench into our internal clocks. Teenagers experience what we call a phase delay in their circadian rhythms, which means they naturally feel more alert later in the evening and have a harder time waking up in the morning.
So it's not just teenagers being rebellious and wanting to stay up late. There's an actual biological reason behind it.
Absolutely, however, this biological shift often clashes with the demands of early school start times, which often leads to chronic sleep deprivation. And it doesn't help that they're surrounded by devices emitting blue light, which further disrupts their sleep patterns.
So you have teenagers who are biologically programmed to stay up late, forced to wake up early, and their phones and computers are making things even worse. No wonder they're tired all the time.
Exactly. And research shows that chronic sleep deprivation and irregular sleep schedules in teenagers can lead to a whole host of problems: mood swings, difficulty concentrating, increased risk of accidents, and even greater susceptibility to mental health issues like depression and anxiety.
So we've got all these hormones, surging sleep cycles going haywire, and on top of all that, the adolescent brain is still under construction.
That's right. Different parts of the brain mature at different rates during adolescence. The limbic system, which is responsible for emotions, rewards, and social connections, develops faster than the prefrontal cortex.
Well, remind me what the prefrontal cortex does again.
The prefrontal cortex is like the executive control center of the brain. It's responsible for planning decision-making, impulse control, thinking about long-term consequences. It's what helps us resist those tempting but potentially harmful impulses.
So the part of the brain that's all about emotions and excitement is developing faster than the part that's supposed to keep things in check.
Yeah.
Sounds like a recipe for, typical teenage behavior.
In a way, yes, this uneven development can make teenagers more prone to risk-taking and more sensitive to peer pressure and social stress. Their emotional responses might seem exaggerated or irrational because the prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed yet to regulate those emotions.
That makes a lot of sense. It's not just hormones making them act out. Their brains are literally wired for more intense emotions and less impulse control.
Right, and brain imaging studies using fMRI scans, which allow us to see brain activity in real time, show that teenagers have less activity in the prefrontal cortex than adults, especially when they're in emotionally charged situations or around their peers.
So when teenagers seem to be making decisions based solely on emotion, there's a biological reason for it. The notes also mention something about the reward centers of the brain being extra active during adolescence.
Yes, the nucleus accumbens, which is a key part of the brain's reward system, is particularly sensitive during adolescence. This means that teenagers experience pleasurable things more intensely, which can fuel their drive to seek out new and exciting experiences.
So it's not just peer pressure driving risky behavior, there's a biological drive to seek out thrills and rewards.
Exactly. But of course, this heightened reward sensitivity isn't all bad. It also makes teenagers more open to new experiences, more enthusiastic about learning, and more likely to form strong social bonds, all of which are crucial for personal growth and development.
That's a good point. It's like their brains are primed for exploration and discovery, both in the world around them and within themselves.
Precisely, and this drive for exploration is further enhanced by some of the positive changes happening in the brain during this period. For instance, there's increased myelination, which is like adding insulation to the brain's wiring, making information processing faster and more efficient.
So teenagers are literally getting faster at thinking and reacting.
That's right. And remember that enhanced dopamine activity we talked about? It not only makes pleasurable experiences more intense, but it also plays a crucial role in learning and motivation.
It sounds like the teenage brain is a fascinating paradox, wired for both impulsivity and exploration, sensitivity and resilience.
Yeah.
But as we know, the timing of all these changes can vary quite a bit. Let's talk about early versus late bloomers.
Yes. The age at which puberty begins can range from 8 to 14 years old. It's influenced by a combination of genetics, family history, ethnicity, and even factors like body fat.
2 years is a huge difference when you're a teenager. The notes mentioned a secular trend of earlier puberty in recent generations. Is this still happening?
Interestingly, that trend seems to have leveled off in developed countries. Now, why that's a question researchers are still exploring. It could be due to improvements in nutrition and healthcare, or perhaps environmental factors are playing a role.
It makes you wonder what impact earlier puberty might have on long-term health and development, especially when you consider how much stress kids are under these days.
That's an important point. Stress hormones can actually influence the onset of puberty, potentially triggering it earlier in some individuals. And that early onset could have cascading effects on everything from physical health to social and emotional well-being.
That's definitely something to think about. So we know that the timing of puberty can vary. But what about the social and emotional consequences of being an early or late bloomer?
Well, research suggests that early maturation, especially for girls, can be linked to lower self-esteem, increased risk of depression and anxiety, and even a greater likelihood of experiencing unhealthy relationships.
That's concerning. What about early maturing boys?
Early maturing boys may initially enjoy some social advantages due to their size and strength, but they're also statistically more likely to engage in risky behaviors, experience aggression, and struggle with substance abuse.
It sounds like early maturation can be a double-edged sword for both sexes.
Exactly. And while we often focus on the challenges of early development, late bloomers face their own set of difficulties. Late maturing boys, for example, might experience anxiety and social isolation due to feeling physically behind their peers. They may also be more prone to depression and have a harder time developing self-confidence.
So whether a teenager matures early or late, there are unique challenges to navigate. And it seems like these challenges are magnified by the fact that their brains are still catching up in terms of emotional regulation and impulse control. This has been incredibly insightful. We've covered so much about the hormonal roller coaster, the developing brain, and the complexities of timing during puberty. But of course, we can't ignore the obvious, the physical changes that are happening on the outside.
Yes, indeed. Next, we'll dive into those physical transformations, exploring not only the visible changes, but also the unique challenges and risks teenagers face as their bodies undergo this dramatic makeover.
Welcome back, everyone.
Yes, welcome back.
It's really mind-blowing to think about all the, invisible changes going on during puberty. But of course, there are tons of outward transformations happening too.
Absolutely.
Some more graceful than others.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And probably the most dramatic is the growth spurt. Remember those awkward years when you suddenly shot up a few inches and your clothes never seemed to fit quite right?
Oh, I definitely remember those days. I felt like I was all arms and legs.
Yeah, and the notes here point out that the growth spurt isn't always a smooth or symmetrical process.
That's right. It tends to follow a specific sequence. The weight spurt usually comes first, followed by the height spurt. And get this, the limbs actually grow faster than the torso.
So that explains why teenagers can look a bit uncoordinated or disproportionate for a while. Their arms and legs are literally growing faster than the rest of their bodies.
Exactly. And about a year or two after the height spurt comes the muscle spurt. Now, while both sexes develop stronger and longer legs during puberty, boys generally gain significantly more arm muscle than girls.
It's like their bodies are preparing them for different roles, even at a biological level.
Yeah.
But it's not just the outside that's changing, right? Our internal organs are also undergoing major transformations.
Absolutely. The lungs, for instance, triple in weight, allowing for deeper, more efficient breathing. The heart doubles in size, and the heartbeat actually slows down, leading to a lower pulse rate, but higher blood pressure.
Wow, it's like the body is working overtime to build a bigger, stronger, more mature version of itself.
Exactly. And here's a curious fact. The lymphoid system, which is part of the immune system, is the only system in the body that actually shrinks during puberty.
Really? I would thought the immune system would need to be extra strong during this time of rapid growth and change. Why does it shrink?
Well, the lymphoid system is actually most active during childhood, when our immune systems are still developing and learning to fight off infections. As we reach adulthood, our immune systems are generally more mature and robust, and we no longer need as much lymphoid tissue. It's like graduating from training wheels to a two-wheeler.
That's a great analogy. So our bodies are becoming more efficient in all sorts of ways. And of course, we can't forget about the skin and hair changes that come with all this internal upheaval.
Oh, yes, those are definitely noticeable. Thanks to the surge in hormones, skin becomes oilier and more prone to acne, which, as you can imagine, can be a source of great distress for image-conscious teenagers.
Oh.
And then there's the hair. It becomes coarser and darker, and of course, new hair starts sprouting in all sorts of interesting places.
Yeah, the dreaded underarm hair, facial hair, and well, it's all part of the package deal, right?
It is. But with all these physical changes happening, it's important to talk about the challenges and potential risks that can arise. For example, the lecture slides highlight some nutritional challenges that many teenagers face.
Right, we've all heard about teenagers and their questionable eating habits. But it's more than just picky eating, isn't it?
Exactly. During this period of rapid growth, teenagers had increased nutritional needs, especially for iron, calcium, zinc, and other minerals that are crucial for bone and muscle development. But teenagers often make food choices based on convenience, taste, or social trends rather than nutritional value. This can lead to deficiencies that can have long-term consequences for their health and development.
So it's not just about eating enough, it's about eating the right things. And then, of course, you layer on all the social pressures around body image, which are amplified during this time when their bodies are changing so dramatically.
Absolutely. Body image is a huge concern for adolescents, especially in a culture saturated with unrealistic beauty standards. Girls in particular face immense pressure to be thin, while boys are often bombarded with messages about being muscular and athletic. The media, social media, and even peer groups can contribute to these unrealistic and often harmful ideals.
It's like a constant battle against these unattainable images, and it can really take a toll on teenagers' self-esteem and mental health.
Exactly. And this pressure to conform to certain body ideals can actually exacerbate the nutritional challenges we were just talking about. For example, girls might restrict their calorie intake or eliminate entire food groups in an attempt to be thin, leading to even more serious nutritional deficiencies.
It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
And then you factor in the hormonal changes driving sexual development. And it's no wonder adolescence can feel like such a confusing and overwhelming time.
Yes, puberty marks the development of primary and secondary sex characteristics. Primary sex characteristics are directly involved in reproduction, such as the ovaries and testes. Secondary sex characteristics are the physical traits that signal sexual maturity, but aren't directly involved in reproduction. Things like breast development in girls and facial hair growth in boys.
It's like your body is suddenly changing in all these ways you never even thought about before, and it can be both exciting and frightening. And of course, with all these physical changes come new feelings and questions about sexuality.
Right. As those sex hormones surge, they naturally trigger sexual thoughts and fantasies. It's fascinating to consider how culture influences how those thoughts and feelings are interpreted and expressed.
So it's not just biology driving the bus. Social and cultural norms play a huge role in shaping how teenagers experience and understand their sexuality.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the topic of sexual activity during adolescence. The lecture slides present some interesting data on trends among high school students in the U.S.
Right. The data shows some positive trends. For example, teen birth rates have been steadily declining for several decades, and we're seeing increased use of contraception and lower rates of teen pregnancy and abortion.
That's encouraging news, but it's crucial to remember that there are still significant risks associated with sexual activity during adolescence, especially given that puberty is happening earlier and social taboos around sex are weakening.
So even though teenagers might be more informed about sex and contraception, They're also engaging in sexual activity at a younger age, which can have its own set of consequences.
Exactly. Studies show that early sexual activity is correlated with higher rates of depression, anxiety, and substance abuse. And of course, there's still the risk of sexually transmitted infections, or STIs. Teenagers have the highest rates of STIs compared to other age groups, likely due to factors like inconsistent condom use, multiple partners, and a reluctance to seek medical help due to fear, embarrassment, or lack of access.
That's concerning.
Yeah.
And as if navigating the physical and emotional changes of puberty and the complexities of sexuality weren't enough, we also need to address the issue of child sexual abuse, which the lecture slides mention as a serious concern during adolescence.
Yes, this is a difficult but essential topic to discuss. Adolescence is, unfortunately, the most common time for child sexual abuse to occur, and the perpetrators are often someone the victim knows and trusts, such as a family member, friend, or authority figure.
Welcome back to our deep dive, everyone.
Yes, welcome back.
We've been exploring all these incredible transformations that happen during the teenage years, from the hormones and the brain development.
Yeah, it's really a remarkable period.
Yeah, and all those social and emotional challenges. But
Right.
adolescence is so much more than just,
It is.
bodies and hormones, right?
Absolutely. It's a time of huge cognitive, social, and emotional development. Teenagers are wrestling with some pretty big questions, like, who am I? What do I believe in? Where do I fit in? These are questions we all grapple with, but they really take on a new urgency during those teenage years.
Yeah, it's like their world is expanding in every direction, right?
Yeah.
They're becoming more aware of themselves, their relationships, and their place in the world.
Exactly.
And it can be exhilarating and terrifying all at the same time.
Absolutely.
I remember feeling so much more sensitive to everything during those years. Like my emotions were closer to the surface.
Yeah, that's very common. Adolescents are developing a stronger sense of self-awareness, but they're also more attuned to social feedback and comparisons. Their peers become incredibly important, and they're constantly trying to figure out where they stand in the social hierarchy.
Yeah, it's like navigating a social maze, right? You're trying to find your way, but the walls are constantly shifting, and you're never quite sure if you're on the right path.
Yeah.
And then there's that pressure to conform, to fit in with the in crowd.
Oh, yeah. Peer pressure can be incredibly powerful during adolescence. Teenagers are wired to seek social acceptance and belonging, and their brains are still developing those executive functions that help us resist impulses and make rational decisions.
Right, so they might do things that even go against their own better judgment.
Exactly. They're more likely to engage in risky behavior if they think it'll win them approval from their peers.
So it's not that they're trying to be rebellious or annoy adults.
Right.
There's a much,
It's much more complex than that.
more complex interplay of biological, social, and emotional factors at play.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that this isn't just a phase of recklessness and bad choices. It's also a time of incredible creativity, idealism, and passion. Teenagers are capable of thinking in new and innovative ways. They're more likely to question authority, challenge the status quo, and imagine different possibilities for the future.
Yeah, they have this amazing energy and enthusiasm that could be so inspiring. They haven't been jaded by the world yet, and they still believe that they can make a difference.
That's what makes adolescence so fascinating. It's a time of both great risk and great opportunity. It's a period of intense change and uncertainty, but also a time when young people are laying the foundation for their adult identities, values, and beliefs.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are some key takeaways you hope our listener will remember about adolescence?
Well, I think the most important takeaway is that adolescence is a journey, not a destination. It's a process of exploration, experimentation, and discovery, and it looks different for everyone. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to understanding this complex and dynamic stage of life.
That's so true. But hopefully by exploring the science behind adolescence, the biology, the brain development, the social and emotional challenges, we've provided some insights that can help our listener better understand and navigate this time, whether they're a teenager themselves or an adult who interacts with teenagers.
And perhaps we've sparked some new questions for our listeners to ponder as well. Knowing that the prefrontal cortex continues to develop throughout adolescence and even into early adulthood, how should this inform our understanding of teenagers' decision-making abilities and their capacity for responsible behavior?
That's a great question to leave our listeners with. And remember, this is just a glimpse into the fascinating world of adolescence. There's so much more to learn and explore.
Absolutely.
So keep asking questions, keep learning, and keep marveling at the incredible transformations happening within those teenage minds and bodies. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks, everyone.